Very good morning to everyone. Deputy Mayor Saab, all zonal chairman, colleagues from Coimbatore, the collector, the commissioner, district forest officer, other dignitaries, all smart city practitioners from across the country, from smart city SPVs, organizations, partners, everyone. On behalf of the national mission, I welcome you all to this workshop on streets and public spaces being organized in Coimbatore today. A lot of times when we are working in our offices, we use these jargons, so we use the jargon called we deep dive into a subject. So today literally we are here to deep dive into lakes, but we would not deep dive in the traditional way with a scuba gear. We will probably deep dive with this and our eyes and ears when we'll talk to each other and see things. I hope the other deep dive is also possible, then some of them can maybe also deep dive the normal deep dive way. I don't know if the lakes allow you to take a dive. For some of them who are interested, they can also go and do that. So what has come out of the Smart Cities mission? In fact, many times I have been in discussion with people across the country, and it depends on the person you are talking to, whether he or she says that the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. A lot of people will say, well, the smart city began, everyone thought that we will transform into a Shanghai or a Madrid or a New York. But we ended up becoming a better Shimoga, a better Indore, a better Coimbatore. Isn't that enough? A better Coimbatore is all that we can make. And continuous better in making of better Coimbatore will actually take you to where some other cities are today. Because what we want to do in quick time, as if we open our eyes in the morning and we become a city of the stature of the cities we talk about, we don't realize that it has taken them 2 or 3 centuries to become what they are. And so this is the thing about the Smart Cities mission, apart from other programs. And I can tell it very personally because the first time I joined a municipal corporation was in 2003. That was even before JNNURM. I was a commissioner in 2006, again, when the JNNURM was launched, and I was a commissioner again when the Smart Cities, everything was launched in Pune. And I have seen the difference in trajectory of how, obviously this is all about the Government of India's approach, because one area where I think much more needs to be done is how our local bodies transform themselves without. I want to see a local body stand up and say, I don't need Government of India fund, I have enough money. That day will truly be a day where our local bodies have become strong and they say that we will take on and champion the cause of our people. But that day is yet to come. But however, within the programs of the Government of India, the Smart Cities mission clearly stood out. Now we have the Commissioner of Police also coming in. Right. So why did it stand out was for a very simple reason. I think it fundamentally made us think more than any other program of the Government of India made us think. Thinking is all that clearly one word, you had to think more. Here, there was no template that was offered. In a smart city, what is a smart city even now? And not even now. You talk to different people, you talk to people after 50 years, they will have different concepts about the smart city because everyone's life and the life of a city intersects in different ways. And there at the intersection, we find the meaning of what smart city means to me. Because if I am a regular person living in the city, wake up in the morning, go to work or come back, and then on the weekend I enjoy leisure. If I am able to do these things well, for me the city is smart. For someone else who's doing specific a different kind of life, if he or she is able to do that, it is smart. So the template was left open. Not only the template was left open, what you could do was left open, how you could do was left open. And here was a mission which pushed back and says, well, we are here to give you money, and this is literally free money. We are not asking you anything. In the other programs, there were reforms. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. This was not even asking for any reforms. Technically, this was the biggest reform, I would say, that you made the thinking sort of go bottom up instead of up down. That was the biggest reform, but it was not mentioned as a reform. There were no other tagged reforms. And you were told you could do anything. Now this led to transformative thinking in many cities. It doesn't look like that because the amount of work that our cities need to do is so high that even the work that is, if you're required to do this much, you do this much, you still feel that there's so much left to do. But the point is, over the last 5-7 years, when the mission was launched and the first lot of cities had been declared, this idea of using technology in cities to manage operations came up. And I was a commissioner in Pune then, 2016. And we do not know ABCD of how we could use technology to manage traffic, how you could use technology to manage solid waste, to manage water. And we were now desirous of doing something like that. From that point on to all 100 cities now talking about stories of how they are using technology and have saved money, they have saved resources, they have improved efficiency, they have improved efficacy, they have improved effectiveness. That is and if you see it year by year, the evolution is very clear to me because I have been in this mission in some of the other role from 2014 when I took over as commissioner in Pune and then 2018 onwards in Delhi. I have seen year on year improvement. And that has been possible only because there was freedom to experiment. The mission became a stage. It's like this stage. City of Coimbatore came here and performed a different play. City of Chennai came here and performed a different play, and so on. Jhansi and Varanasi played a different act. But whatever they did was required in their local context, and they are still experimenting. None of us who are perfectionists will find that everything is, perfectionists will always say that what has happened is still, faulty, or this should not have happened and that should not have happened. Innovative work, responsible work, where you are trying to do things for the first time, experiment and trying to find out solutions, some of it is going to go wrong. But I would be worried if something doesn't go wrong, because if something is not going wrong, then there is this huge desire to be right will actually not let you experiment. So this kind of platform emerged, and this is why we are seeing such beautiful works having been, because let me put it this way, there was no space for spaces in urban programs. Was there any space for spaces? There was only space for water supply, sewerage, all that. कितना pipeline डाल दिया, कितना water tank बना लिया, इसके अलावा कुछ बात ही नहीं करते थे. There was nothing else. Now we're talking of, so we have created space for spaces. And look at how it has emerged. And the space was created. But what kind of space will emerge was left to the city. And some of them have done beautiful projects on parks and gardens, waterfronts, riverfronts. Spaces also include streets. The way we are now looking at streets is completely different from what we used to look at streets 5 years back. And that is the evolution. And to look at these in different perspective, it's very important to see how these things are important for a city. Well, when we build infrastructure, when we build our own house, do we always keep harping upon the beautiful plumbing that we have done and the electrical wiring that we have done? No, we harp upon how our bedroom looks, how our drawing room looks, how the kitchen is there, what kind of functionality is there. So in the initial phases, we'll always be stuck upon what we are doing in this plumbing and everything. But the actual, what are the outcomes that we are trying to chase through these? So in public spaces, I think fundamentally one of the biggest things that we successfully achieve through public spaces is that we bring the city together. Bigger the city, actually, funnily, it becomes a smaller city because I don't know anyone. How many of us really, in Delhi, of course, because I live in a society of all kinds, similar kind of officers, we know a lot of each other. But in many places, people just don't know even their neighbors. And if there is no way the city can come together in spaces where they are not there with their family or friends, but they are there as citizens and are sharing a space that brings the city together, it builds what is called the social fabric of the city. And more such places in a city will probably guarantee the city, at least when there is a time when the city is cracking under some kind of trouble, people will act together. People will live together, people will face it together and act together because they've built that camaraderie through sharing of public spaces. Cities can shrink. We saw in COVID, some of our cities became half because all the migrant population went off. Now, if there are places where rich and the poor, different cultures, different kinds of people can come and meet. So spaces are very important insurance agents for your city. They insure you from future calamities by bringing people together. Spaces are also economic agents. Think of this, obviously will bring in a lot of tourism, it will bring in spin-offs in holiday industry, it will bring in spin-offs in so many other ways, food, and people will come and stay, hospitality. I'll probably, some other cities who have done some similar work, the example of Ujjain, where they have, near the temple area where a lot of people come as tourists, they have developed the entire corridor. Shop prices have gone up from 1.5 lakh to 1.5 crores. The kind of economic impact it can have if you do such things. And this economic impact is not only because of the value of land going up, but if a place looks good, look, today I have a choice. I have more of a choice, let me say, not exactly full choice. But if I am working from home, and a lot of people will gradually, working in a knowledge economy, work from home, a lot of people will have this option to be employed in a company in Chennai but live in Coimbatore because it provides me better environment, it provides me a better place, good looking place where I can go in the evening, I can have a stroll, I can have a leisure, I can stay here and work in a company in Chennai. So the ability of Chennai to actually keep the person in Chennai is going to be much more difficult now because the choice for the person has increased. So those cities which have infrastructure of this kind, spaces, this brings economic impact because these are the people who bring the economy together. So you bring these people in places only when your spaces are good. Then of course there's a cultural impact, a lot of cultural activities coming together, development of new cultures. I would say if 3 chefs meet on a lakeside, they may end up producing a 4th dish that none of them had produced before. So that's cultural evolution in some senses. And of course, inclusion, people come together from different walks of life, feel, closeness to each other, there's social equity, so on and so forth. So these spaces have to be given topmost priority in our ways of looking at the city. You won't get, let's say you're not getting 24/7 water supply. I'm not saying you should not have 24/7 water supply, every city should have, but equally important is to have good public spaces where people can come, meet, greet, stay together, enjoy some function, some event, just be there, leisure. Those are very, very important components of a city's future. They build the city in some senses. Now, what we are looking here is a particular example of that. When the Smart Cities Mission created this space, I think more than 180 plus lakefront, waterfront projects have happened. And what we are looking at is one of the best examples of that. So I should thank the entire team, including the public representatives and everyone from Coimbatore. These are moments of inspiration. You need one spark. Someone comes and sees this amongst these cities and maybe goes back and does something similar in their city. So this becomes a moment of spark, a moment of inspiration for people who are here to take back the learnings and actually do it in this. And that is a fundamental way why we do these peer-to-peer learning workshops. You come it here, you spread it to other places. One, fundamentally, because these works have not really happened that many in the past. So there's not much learning which is already available. We talk of lakefront, riverfront, it seems like very easy, but it's not easy. There are a lot of multiple kinds of things, including rehabilitation, land issues, garbage issues, judicial, legal issues, etc. You have to face to do these kinds of projects. Learnings from one project will definitely be able to help us deal with these issues in other areas. So that, and The other beauty is that you don't really learn like copy-paste kind of learning. You do smart copy-paste learning, where you learn something here, but smartly modify it in your area in a way that will be more suitable to your area, and then implement it there. So it is smart copy-paste. This is what the Singapore Prime Minister used to say, Lee Kuan Yew. You go to all parts of the world, see all the best things, come back to Singapore and smart copy-paste. Don't just copy-paste, but do it in a way which is suitable to Singapore. And that is all that we have to do. I mean, our dependence on consultants, our dependence on is going to be there, but our ability to understand these things have to increase, which is why these workshops are there, and which is why the smart cities is not like a individual. This is like a movement. 100 cities are responsible for creating templates of these kinds, which are going to be used by other cities in the country. Now, so lastly, I would just close in about 2 minutes. When we look at a space like this, it looks good. But I think, let's say we are sitting in this hotel, and whenever this hotel was built, it must have looked good, because obviously it was not used also, and all these halls and all, it looks very glamorous, very beautiful. But would that hotel be used by people? It will require a reception to come in, a whole lot of different units of work to come in. So the functioning of the hotel is what makes it click. Even though it must be the most beautiful looking building in the world, it will not succeed until you have the proper functioning of which is why some hotels have more number of people going. People are known for hospitality. So the space that we create is not a space that is created only for infrastructure. A lot of us have this infrastructure mindset because we come from the era of pipeline and water tanks. Everything for us is a unit of infrastructure. For us, a space is a unit of infrastructure, a tree is a unit of infrastructure, our embankment is a unit of, a seating space is a unit of infrastructure. But if you think of it as a unit of function, very simple way, a simple thing, a street bench, when it is straight, people can sit there, but all of them are facing on one side. That's the infrastructure. But when you make it L-shaped or C-shaped, they not only sit together, they can chat because they're now facing each other. So the functionality of that bench improves, whereas the form is literally almost the same. So that's the point. How do you make these spaces more functional for people? A lot of times we build beautiful bus stops, but the bus stop is directly, if you stand there, it's directly, the sunlight is coming on you. If you had done some awning or something, people would have enjoyed standing at the bus stop. These are small elements which infrastructure mentality misses out, but the function mentality just catches them. And that is what we have to develop as a muscle, that these are not spaces for mere infrastructure creation. These are spaces which have to function properly. And the second thing is that there is an element of responsible behavior, I must say, amongst public representatives and officers that should be there, that we are not going to create spaces to say that it happened during my tenure. That's the most absurd thing to do. You have to say that I have built something which will stay after 10 years of my tenure. And that is only when you will succeed. It's very easy to do something now because you can do something with a quick fix, but then tomorrow you can take pot shots at the next guy and say, well, because he came in, this has all gone bad. No, it did not go bad because he came in, because you didn't build sustainability structures around it. Which is how do you think of a project beyond its project creation time? And how do you think of its sustainability? How do you think of its going ahead? How do you think of its operations? How do you think of people collaborating to work together to make it function? All those things have to be part of this. So at the end of the day, the creation of the infrastructure itself is just the beginning. How do you make it function? How do you make it operational? How do you make it sustainable? Is what will decide the success of the story. And I'm sure there will be many learnings on those fronts in Coimbatore, and there are such learnings in other parts of the country, which will also be shared. I think 14 projects are being shared today. Quick fire, 14 presentations on lakes. It'll be very interesting. I'm going to be there to hear through all of them. I'm sure you should all stay back and hear all that. And plus, do not miss out on the site visits and ask questions, be interactive, so that with the purpose of, if you have something at the back of your mind to do at your city, you should be able to clarify as many doubts as possible before you go back from here. So at the end, once again, thanking the Coimbatore administration, everyone, and all of you for coming from various parts of the country for this workshop. And the success of the workshop will depend on how much of this we can implement at other places. And next time one of you stands up and says, next workshop should be here. So we would look forward to such opportunities. Thank you so much.